Guys, Khabib's manager Ali Abdelaziz sent a not-so-subtle tweet. It said 30-0 and nothing else. Nick and I are talking about that right now. What's up, Barnhill family? Welcome back to the channel.
Yo.
So, Nick, when it comes to cryptic messages and trying to be subtle, Ali Abdelaziz definitely failed that, I believe. 30-0, we all know what that means. Come on.
Yeah, no, I think he got his message across in very few characters in the tweet. Yeah, and you know they allow, what is it, 150?
I think I don't barely use Twitter, but I think they've upped it to like 200 and something. But it used to be like a 140, 150. Something
he said,
like that.
Keep 99% of it. I just need these few numbers.
I need 4.
Yeah,
little characters there.
So that says a lot in saying very little. I have a few theories on it, and I'm kind of eager to see how all this plays out. Obviously, 155 in the UFC is the hottest division in MMA, and then at the top of the heap, you've got Khabib and Conor as the two biggest stars, and then right behind them is Justin Gaethje and Dustin Poirier, and they're kind of the B squad for the top of the heap at 155. But Khabib and Conor do sit above everybody else, and potentially a rematch, but I don't think that tweet means quite as much, or doesn't lend, or it doesn't quite say that Khabib's coming back guaranteed as much as it says, I don't want Dustin versus Conor to be for a title fight. I think it's more of a, Ali Abdelaziz has a deep hatred for Conor McGregor.
Yes, that he does.
And he'll be damned if they're going to strip Khabib for a shot at the vacant title that Khabib is still unsure if he's ready to give up or not.
Yeah, one thing you can be sure about is when a champion retires and steps away, especially when you have another big star in the division, and Conor is the biggest star in the organization, that the moment that cage is closed, the champion that will no longer be.
Right.
They're going to take that title. And I think Ali, and this is the funny thing, because this is my theory, I do believe we see Khabib one more time. I think, I know that contradicts what I said after the fight, and I still do think his retirement speech was sincere at the time he gave it. He was very emotional. You know, he just lost his father. He overcame a surgery, we found out after the fact. Daniel Cormier came out and said Khabib had a very rough training camp leading up to this. We saw him visibly struggle to make weight. We saw him carry the mental baggage on his back, just being sad that his dad can't be there, and all of the stuff that goes with that. So I think he was sincere at the time, and I still think that he meant that at the time. But I think as you go on, and I don't believe that people have to paint themselves into a corner. You can say and believe one thing one day, and then you find out something else, or the tables turn, or life changes. That's just the way life goes. Yeah. And you don't have to necessarily stick to that. And so I think that we do see Khabib one more time. But here's the thing. I think Ali's tweet is perfect for keeping that title, because the last thing he wants is Khabib to get stripped and Conor to pick it up, as you said. I don't believe that Khabib's 30-0 is against the winner of Conor versus Poirier.
Well, yeah, but I don't know. I think that what Ali Abdelaziz is doing in this situation is just kicking the can down of having an active lightweight champion in the sport. Right. The biggest tell that Khabib is or isn't going to be competing again, or has plans in the near future to compete, is he still in the USADA testing pool? Right. If he is, that says a lot. That says that he's more likely than not still got a little itch that he wants to scratch as far as fighting and maybe hitting 30-0. If he pulled out, which I don't know. I can't speak on it from a place of like facts, but if he's still in the testing pool, then that makes me believe that he's probably going to fight one more time. It just doesn't make sense to continue to get tested and tested and tested by USADA if you have no plans on fighting.
Right. Yeah, so that's just a nuisance that you don't want to have to deal with.
Right. So I think this purely is to keep the belt around Khabib's waist for a little while longer, even if he doesn't, even if he doesn't fight in the next 6 months or whatever. I think that it kind of works in Khabib and Ali's hand that the UFC isn't like super eager to strip him like they were a Henry Cejudo. I mean, Henry Cejudo, they pretty much gave him the belt, and then after the press conference, they pretty much now we've got that now. Here's Peter Yan, and these guys are fighting for the belt because Henry pretty much. Even though I think he's still in the USADA testing pool, he kind of like took his oars out of the water, so to speak. I don't know if Khabib has done that. I'd be interested to find out. But I think that this is more just to get in the way of Conor McGregor and Dustin Poirier or Justin Gaethje, whoever he fights in January, because after this time off, it's a little short for the UFC to go ahead and replace somebody.
Right.
Generally, a champ would get more than 3 or 4 months in between fights before they get vacated. But if they said in the octagon, I'm never coming back, I'm finished, then the UFC kind of has to move on with business. It's better for business to put their biggest belt in a fight with their biggest star, which is Conor McGregor, who just so happens to be scheduled to fight in the very early parts of next year.
Yeah, you would think that if they were going to make the Dustin Conor fight for the belt, that they would be talking about that now, because we're almost 2 months away from this fight. This is going to be the opening pay-per-view of 2021. This is a huge fight. If this was going to be for the belt, you would hear more rumblings about this being for the belt. I think the UFC, as you said, they love to move on with business, but there's certain times where it makes sense to let a guy run the belt out for a little while. And in Khabib's case, it is because there is so much animosity there with Conor. It's like, well, if Khabib's still holding on to the belt and then we find out that he isn't still testing with USADA and Conor somehow gets past Dustin Poirier, and then it's like, it makes for exciting news. It makes for exciting talking points. The UFC's in the headlines. They're getting good coverage on ESPN. And if you take Khabib completely out of it and you just make that fight for the belt, there's no speculation to be had that's exciting conversation. Even though I think if Khabib does come back, which I'm getting a little more bullish on the fact that he is, I think that he's going to go try to get the St Pierre fight.
Yeah, and I could see that. I could see him wanting to do that. He's kind of wanted to add George St Pierre to his list of opponents. That would make sense to me.
Yeah.
The Conor rematch is the biggest fight the UFC could make.
Yeah, no
Conor
question.
And I know Khabib's not really interested in just fighting Conor because the money. I think he wants more of the legacy and cares about who he's doing business with.
Yeah.
That being said, I do think that if you ask Khabib, who would you like to fight? List out the top 5 people in a row and most to least you'd like to fight next in your 30th and final potential fight. George St. Pierre is number 1, but then Conor McGregor's number 2. I think that's how he would do it. I think Tony Ferguson would be 3, and then,
there's really nothing besides
there's
that.
really nothing else for him to do, and that's why, what's he going to do? Go through Justin Gaethje or Dustin Poirier again? I don't really see that being the case. I do think that he would probably want it to be George St. Pierre, but if George can't make 155, it doesn't really make sense, which leads back to Tony Ferguson and Conor McGregor, and Conor is just the bigger fight.
Well, I'll take a little different approach because I think it does make a little bit of sense actually to not do it at 155. And I know most people disagree with me on this, but I think that if you did it, what's been the one criticism of Khabib his whole career, why he's not the GOAT? He never changed weight classes. He
Thanks
always
to
stayed
Conor
in the
McGregor.
same. Exactly, always stayed in the same weight class. Now, I understand George St. Pierre is not the current sitting 170 champion.
Right.
But I think most people would agree that George St. Pierre is the greatest 170 fighter of all time. So if Khabib were to go up and do a fight at 170, he doesn't need another title defense to cement his legacy. Mm-hmm. What he needs is a win over a big name, possibly in a different weight class. Go show us that you can beat up the bodies that live above 200 pounds. So to me, it actually makes sense. There's no reason to go defend the 155 title. You've cleared out that division, and Tony Ferguson's not getting that shot anytime soon. So I think if you do the St. Pierre fight, why not do it at 170 or even 165?
We'll see. Yeah, I believe that, and I do think that if him and George St. Pierre do match up, it will be in one of the divisions, 55 or 70. But I believe Khabib would fight George St Pierre at 170 for nothing, for no title, whatever. I do not think George St Pierre will ever fight again unless it's for a title. He's earned the right to step in against, and the only weight class he wants to take over that he can feasibly make and compete in is 155, and that's a stretch. It's going to be very hard for him to get down to 155, but I think he could probably do it with the discipline. He's already got 170. Obviously, he ran that division. He got the 185 title. I don't know if he wants to go back up there and test the waters there, but 155 is where I think George would be the difficult one to bring to the negotiating table in that situation. I think Khabib, if you said, Khabib, we're gonna make a GOAT belt like we made the BMF belt at 170. You and George St Pierre are gonna contest it first. I think you would get them. Yeah, get Khabib for sure. I don't know about George St Pierre.
One thing's for sure, that if George St Pierre says, "Look, I did the test and I just don't feel my strongest. I don't think I can make 155." I know he's had issues with the colitis and stuff like that. So like it might be a stretch too far for him. If he says, "Dana, I'm not fighting unless there's a belt on the line, and I'm not fighting at 155, and I want to fight Khabib," Dana will just make a belt, and maybe he's got to make a belt and put an extra zero on the paycheck or something. But I feel like if George St Pierre really wants that fight and Khabib really wants that fight, and George just simply can't make 155, they'll get creative and make it happen.
Yeah, I could see them doing that. And as a fan of Khabib and the people that have worked their way so rigorously through the most difficult division, I can't help but hope that his 30th fight would be against Tony Ferguson. I think the Conor and Khabib business is a little bit too dirty for all parties.
It gets too dark.
It gets dark.
Like you said, that press conference between Conor and Khabib
downright
was
scary.
The darkest moment that I can recall in UFC history.
I remember watching it.
It brings the worst out of Conor, because Conor is like, he's so good at what he does, but that fight he just took it a step too far, and it just, you have to know who your opponent is, and you have to know what, like Nate Diaz, you can go back and forth. Nate's got his skin is as thick as alligator skin.
Right.
You can go like that, but you can't insult somebody like Khabib about his family, about his religion, and expect it not to get personal. So it's
like a comedian telling jokes that are just going. They're just sailing over the people in the crowd's heads. Like, okay, this crowd is not catered to receiving these jokes. Right. I think like a Gamebred Masvidal, Conor McGregor promotion would be fantastic. Yeah. But that's because they can bounce off each other. Conor throws some sort of joke or whatever remark about Khabib's like religion or his father or his wife or anything like that. It just doesn't stick. And it doesn't bounce back and forth.
When there's no back and forth, it makes you look bad. It makes you look rude, and it makes you look like a bully. So
I'm glad we had that moment in UFC history and MMA history, but I don't know if the people involved and the sport can handle another Conor Khabib showdown.
Yeah, I don't think so. I definitely do not think so. And it's funny, just as a side note, Conor has taken a very different approach thus far with the Dustin Poirier fight. He's saying he's going to knock him out. He's still Conor McGregor at the end of the day, but he also is saying that he respects Dustin and the charity, and he's excited to see what skills he's going to bring to the new test or to the new matchup all these years later. And so, it's cool. Maybe we're seeing Conor 2.0. Maybe we're seeing a polite Conor that could do that Khabib thing again.
Yeah, and I do think that if they did run it back, Khabib versus Conor, that Conor would be a little more graceful. I think, unfortunately, things like death of a loved one brings people down a little bit and tones down the level and kind of brings people down and makes them feel more human and makes them more sympathetic for other humans. And I think that Khabib losing his father would definitely tone the whole promotion side of this down. But But I don't know.
There would be no dollies going through windows this time around.
Right.
I can
It would
tell
be
you
a
that.
skill for skill thing, and that you could sign me up for any day of the week.
Most definitely. Guys, what does the 30-0 tweet mean? Let us know. Does that mean Khabib's coming back? Or does that mean Ali's favorite football team, he's projecting they're going to win 30-0 this weekend? We have no idea, but we think we know.
Also, is Khabib still in the testing pool? If he's still getting tested by USADA, I think we have our answer whether he's coming back or not. But let us know if you guys know something we don't know.
Yeah. Break some news for us, guys.
There we go.
Thanks so much. As always, please like, comment, subscribe, and check us out on audio where you listen to podcasts. Have a great day.
Peace.